Okay, so this is really interesting. This is a trade that I didn't see coming, but looking back, probably was almost expected. I don't think anyone. I personally thought Arizona should have kept kept Aiden Hill, mainly because they don't have a backup goalie. I mean, Kemper is a guy who might leave in free agency. Antiranta is old and a free agent as well. And Aiden Hill is really the only guy in that system that could take over as the goalie for the future for Arizona. Um, and San Jose, on the other hand, desperately needs a goalie, and they have the protection slot for him. So in that sense, yes, it makes sense. San Jose needs a goalie. Arizona has an extra goalie that they can't protect. In my original mock deal, because Tundra Cast is actually preparing a mock expansion draft that's going to be coming out this Sunday, so check out for that. Um, I actually had Arizona trading Oliver Ekman-Larsson to Seattle for like a second or third round pick for Seattle to take a guy like Pitlick instead of Aiden Hill, because I thought Aiden Hill was going to be that important to Arizona, and I know that an OEL trade was discussed with Seattle, and I do think it was about Aiden Hill, but I think what a lot of teams are realizing is, for example, a Colorado and a Minnesota, is that the asking price, if you're going to trade with Seattle directly, is going to be very exorbitant. And so I think teams are realizing that they're going to have to cut losses with good players to hold on to other good players and not to hemorrhage value and do essentially what Florida did with Vegas 3 years ago. A second is a lot though if you're San Jose. For a team that's aging who doesn't have a ton of prospects, at least like not a top end prospects. You have Ryan Merkley, Mario Ferraro is good, Gambrell is solid, but they don't have a ton of youth on that team, and that's because for a good part of the 2010s, Doug Wilson and that San Jose management have really been trying to win that cup, and they've gotten close a bunch of times, but they haven't won, and this team is past their prime. Vlasic has gone from a Team Canada shutdown defensive defenseman to a guy who you can barely play. Brett Burns and Eric Carlson are two guys on huge contracts that are basically negative value at this point, that you can't move, that you're stuck with, that are aging, and can't play defense as defensemen. You have Couture, who's worth his money, but it's kind of like that Price Weber situation where you gave him too much term for it. Timo Meier, who's one of your better young forwards, is going to hit free agency. You're paying Evander Kane a ton of money. And San Jose is just in this position where they really need to choose a direction. And the right direction to choose is to go on a rebuild. But for some reason, they continue to try to win. And Aiden Hill is someone that you can win now and win in the future with. But the issue is giving up the assets that you gave up to get a guy like Aiden Hill, a second round pick, and Joseph Coronar, who I don't think is actually any good, but he was the only, half decent goalie prospect that San Jose had to offer in return that matched the Seattle expansion requirements. I mean, this trade is difficult for me to analyze because it's not a terrible trade for either team. Arizona, I think, realized that Seattle was asking for too much. They weren't going to be able to get a deal done, and they were approaching the deadline, so they went to San Jose. Fine. And they got good value for Aiden Hill. A second round pick is great value for Aiden Hill, considering you would lose him for nothing, or you would have to trade you had to trade to Seattle way more than a second round pick to get them to take someone else rather than Aiden Hill. So from that aspect, I get it for Arizona. But it's also, if Kemper leaves in free agency, that team is screwed. and that's a risk that means Arizona really believes that Kemper is going to come back, or that they can get good value for Kemper in the next year before he hits free agency. Because otherwise, this trade doesn't make much sense to me. I would I would try to make a side move with Seattle. I'd move Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and apparently Garland is on the outs with the team. You move Garland if you're going to lose him anyways, right? But goaltending is so important. Carey Price, Andrei Vasilevsky, they've shown that this last playoff run, how important goaltending can be. And so that's kind of meh for Arizona. But they lost their second round pick this year because of the whole scouting scandal, workout scandal. And so now getting a second round pick back next year, you have 3 second round picks in the next 2 years. Arizona is starting to rebuild that draft cupboard. So I don't hate it for them. I really don't like this move for San Jose. Like I mentioned, San Jose has 2 picks in the first 2 rounds the next 2 seasons. They don't have their second round pick this year. They don't have their second round pick next year. It's tough. Um, and yeah, I think it's gonna be a pickle. It's gonna be. I think when we look back at this trade a couple of years from now, um, San Jose is going to be on the losing end, because as much as I like Adin Hill, I think Adin Hill is just going to be part of the next line of trades that we've seen Doug Wilson and the San Jose front office make to try to stay competitive when they just aren't good enough to be competitive anymore. And I don't know why they refuse to embrace a rebuild. Maybe it's because of all the contracts that they have locked up, and that they have to contend. But I feel like they should be conservative buyers and not giving up premium picks and assets. But overall, I would give this trade A minus for Arizona. I think they got very good value for Adin Hill, and I think they did pretty good given the circumstances, and I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt because I don't have information that the organization may be privy to. Maybe they have a deal with Kemper already. Maybe they've been working on an extension and they're very confident they can get Kemper back. In which case, having Adin Hill, who's really good, but only just turned 25 a couple months ago, but is going to ask for a payday eventually some point down the road. It's not worth it to re-sign him. Getting a second round pick out of him right now is good value, right? With that in mind, I'm gonna give Arizona an A minus. For San Jose, B minus. You get a goalie who I think will be your goalie of the future, will be your starter, is a very good player, and has shown success at the NHL level on pretty bad Arizona teams. But you're selling the future again for a 25-year-old goalie who's young, and it will fit this current roster's timeline. But I'm not sure how much he'll fit into after the Vlasic, Carlson, Couture, core kind of fades away. I don't think they have a plan right now. The only guys I can see as part of that future is Hill, Ferraro, Merkley if he pans out, Gambrell, Meyer, LeBanc. I don't know. We'll have to see. The 3 p.m. deadline is passed now, which means that these rosters are locked. And the lock is now officially in place, which will lead to some more interesting topics that we will be uploading throughout today. So yeah, this will be fun. This will be very interesting. I can't wait for the Seattle expansion draft. Can't see what moves are going to be made then. And again, keep look out for our Tundra Cast mock expansion draft coming out this Sunday. It'll be great. It'll be fun, and we'll see you guys next time.